Kyler Murray signs with the Minnesota Vikings, one-year deal minimum. Minnesota's not shelling out a ton of money to make him their presumed starting quarterback. And I say presumed, I'm sure they'll say, Kyler versus J.J. McCarthy. We're going to have a quarterback competition. This isn't going to be like Atlanta, where it's a genuine question. Hey, does Michael Penix win the job? Does Tua win the job? Kyler is a much better player than J.J. McCarthy. And while I have been very critical of Kyler in his career, mostly for the stuff that he can't control. He can't control the fact that he's 5'9". We can't control our heights. I think he's made the most out of it based on his height. I've criticized him for the intangibles, for the lack of leadership, for the not studying film, the fact that was a big deal a few years ago when they had to put that clause in his contract, the study clause to watch film, all those things. Don't love that. But here's what I can say. We could show you again. We did this last week, but Kyler's total numbers with the Cardinals, not bad. Again, this is the Arizona Cardinals we're talking about. This is not a winning organization. 38-48-1 record. Not bad, again, for a number one overall pick. You would have liked it to have been better, but it's not a disaster. It's not like Josh Rosen, his predecessor, the starting quarterback for the Cardinals. But the big one there at the bottom, 31 games missed. That's a concern. And again, a lot of that does have to do with the fact that, he is 5'9". He's a bigger 5'9" than Bryce Young. He's a great athlete. There's a reason he was a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft years ago. I think at the time Oakland A's drafted him. He's a great athlete. But this is the NFL where you've got 6'3", 6'4", 275-pound pass rushers coming at you full speed. It's hard to stay healthy for 17 games over a 4-month regular season, and then hopefully beyond that, the postseason. However, if you're Minnesota, my question for the Vikings, what is the alternative? Now, I do not think Kyler will be as successful in Minnesota as Sam Darnold was, because Sam Darnold brings some physical traits to the table. Again, Sam's 6'4", so he's a huge height difference. Obviously, is a bigger body, can absorb hits. And Sam, again, even when he was struggling with the Jets, teammates always spoke very highly of him. They loved him. They liked being around him in the locker room, what have you. Kyler does not have those traits. With that being said, are you gonna convince the Vikings fan base? Forget that. No disrespect to the fans. Are you going to convince the locker room? Guys like Justin Jefferson, consummate professional, consistently been among the best receivers in the game. Some people think the best receiver in the game, and with good reason. Hey, we're going to trot J.J. McCarthy out, who put up these numbers last year for a Vikings team that, by the way, somehow, someway had a winning record, 9-8. J.J. McCarthy, 11 touchdowns, 12 picks, 57% completion percentage, 163. It's atrocious. 163.2 pass yards per game, 72 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 35. J.J. was awful. He had a couple of good moments against, he had a road game against Detroit where he played well. He had that fourth quarter on Monday Night Football week 1 against the Bears. By and large, beyond that, not very good. Not very accurate. Didn't see the field well. And if you are a Minnesota team that's kind of in a win-now situation, Justin Jefferson's not getting any younger. Kevin O'Connell, I think, is a brilliant coach. I have heard some say that the Kevin O'Connell's approval rating is much higher outside of Minneapolis than in it. Fans are kind of like, okay, if you're this genius, we're 4 years in, you haven't won a playoff game yet. Okay, understandably so. I would counter and say Kirk Cousins had the best year of his career with Kevin O'Connell. And so did Sam Darnold. His numbers were better in Minnesota than Seattle. And then J.J. McCarthy, I didn't buy as a first-round talent to begin with. Am I hard-pressed to say that Kyler Murray can't play very well for this Minnesota Vikings team? Again, you're out here trotting J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer. And a fact that people kind of didn't watch last year, because I think most folks kind of, outside of Vikings fans, kind of tuned out on the Vikings once they were out of the playoff mix. Minnesota was higher in the standings in the NFC North than Detroit because of the tiebreakers. They beat the Lions twice last season. The Lions, the bite your kneecap Dan Campbell Lions, 4th place in the NFC North. Vikings were 3rd with atrocious quarterback play. And if you're a Minnesota team where it's, okay, we've got Brian Flores back, thankfully, as our defensive coordinator, but no telling when he'll get a job potentially next offseason to be an NFL head coach. Kevin O'Connell's calling the plays. We know he's the quarterback whisperer. Got great weapons, got an offensive line we probably need to address a little bit in the draft, but by and large, we trust as long as Christian Darrisaw is back and healthy, they're fine in that front. Defense, again, Flores is running that. You're good. I mean, let's be honest. Like, they beat the Bears last season. They beat Detroit last season. I see no reason whatsoever. I mean, they beat the Packers, albeit the Packers sat their starters in Week 18, but they were 9-8 with all of those issues at quarterback. I got my issues with Kyler. He's not that bad. Oh, well, he's undersized. So is JJ McCarthy. I think JJ's probably about 3 inches taller, 2.5, 3 inches taller than Kyler, but not as accurate as Kyler Murray. And accuracy is not Kyler's thing, but it's really not JJ's thing. I would argue Kyler has a better arm. The one good physical trait you could say about JJ is his arm, but he's out of control. JJ can move, but he's got a list of injuries now. Kyler does as well, but Kyler is more mobile than JJ. It's worth taking a flyer on. And if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you look at a division in the NFC North that it's murderer's row here. Green Bay's going to be back. Lost some key players in free agency, but also added one. They actually added a defensive tackle from Minnesota in free agency. Jordan Love quietly had a very, very good season last year. You hope Micah Parsons is back from injury, healthy, back, ready to go. So Green Bay's going to be a factor. Chicago Bears, I'm a big believer in the Bears next season. They won the division last year. Where a DJ Moore stopped route away from the NFC Championship game. And Detroit, I think Detroit's going to take not necessarily a step back from last season, but a step back from what our expectations have been of them the last few years as a legitimate NFC contender. But Detroit's not going to be bad. Jared Goff's still a good quarterback, top 15 level quarterback. They've still got great weapons and Dan Campbell running the ship and an upgrade, we presume, at offensive coordinator. How are you going to sell your fans on, hey, one more year developing JJ McCarthy as we go 7-10 and Bears win the division, Packers are in the playoffs, Detroit makes a run at it, we're right back to square one. We still don't have a quarterback. You know JJ's not the guy. And it's okay for front offices. I know they fired their GM in part because he decided to move on from Sam Darnold for JJ McCarthy. But it's okay as a front office to say the Cardinals did it themselves. And they're not the bastion of a great organization, but they did this where, okay, yeah, we missed. We missed on this quarterback. This other guy's probably better. We're going to go with him. The Cardinals did it. They saw Josh Rosen like, yeah, he's not the guy. We're going to go with Kyler. They were right. If you want to talk about a well-run franchise, look at Arizona's division, the NFC West. Look at the 49ers. They used all this capital, moved up to number 3, 2021, take this high upside kid out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance. After a few starts, yeah, he's not that good. And he gets hurt a lot. Then you got the 7th-round rookie Brock Purdy come in. It's, okay, maybe some things have to go right in our system more so for Kyler because he doesn't have the natural physical traits that Trey Lance does, but he's more accurate, he's more efficient, sees the field better. Brock's our guy. Trey's not. It's okay to move off of stuff. This is what's driving me crazy about the Steelers for years is, oh, let's just give it a few years and we can develop Kenny Pickett and we can maybe sneak in the playoffs with Mason Rudolph or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Like, rip the Band-Aid, guys. Doesn't work. Kyler's been a Pro Bowler. Kyler's shown signs of being a productive NFL starter. He won 9 games with JJ doing what he did. More picks than touchdowns. And I'm not even a Kyler fan for the record. But I think it could work. If Minnesota is in the playoffs as the 6th seed, don't be shocked. When you have that great of a coach in Kevin O'Connell, I think he is, and then obviously Brian Flores running the defense, that's a team that can win 10, 11, maybe even 12 games. No one thought they'd win 14 with Darnold, right? And Darnold's better than Kyler. More physical and emotional attributes that he brings to the table that Kyler does not. But you'll still take natural talent over. Yeah, JJ's probably a better hang in the locker room, but he's not very good. So that's where I'm at with the Cardinals for the Vikings making the move for Kyler Murray. And again, as for Arizona, we talked about them last week in the mock draft, and we'll continue to discuss that on mock draft. I think it would be malpractice for them to take Ty Simpson, number 3. Ty Simpson, if he ends up in the right situation, might work. Arizona's in a complete rebuild right now. Probably will draft their quarterback next year. I expect them to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Let's secure our tackle position first and then get our guy in 2027. But we'll see. Again, mock draft 2.0 coming out on Wednesdays. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.